And stage, for example, is another one. It seems to me, and as I looked through the data, it became more and more clear that these high-frequency words are going to be much more useful to learners than a very low-frequency item that they could acquire. So, one thing that the English Vocabulary Profile is suggesting is that a lifelong exposure to these very frequent words could be a lot more useful to learners than knowing 10,000 words or 15,000 words by the time they reach C2. I'll leave you with that as something to think about after the webinar. You might like to discuss that in the forum. The English Vocabulary Profile covers all the frequent meanings of those words by C2 level, and we have some less frequent ones as well, where we found evidence for them in the learner corpus. There's an example of a very frequent and very polysemous word in the CET resources, and I think some of you have already had a look at that, and that's a sheet that's focusing on the verb take. So after the webinar's over, you can have a look at that, and again, there are some sample exercises you can work on with the verb take. Here's one of them, actually, taken from that handout. Okay, I want to stay with phrases for a moment because phrases were a very important part of our research. And in fact, once the first development was done, we had a one-year validation phase, trialing if you like, where we invited people to help us look at the data, decide whether we got it right, tell us where we got it wrong, and actually improve the results that we had. And I want to spend 5 minutes talking to you about the research done by a very clever person called Dr. Ron Martinez, who was very instrumental in improving the phrases element in the English Vocabulary Profile. Now, what one of Ron's many papers says, and you can find this on the website, I'll give you the address later, Ron says that although the top 2,000 words in English can account for at least 80% or 4/5 of a text, in other words, those words keep coming back time and time again, learners actually have problems in understanding those words when they're put together as phrases. They might know all 2,000 words or think they know them, but when they meet them as phrases, they have problems. Here are some examples. So take, again, with the noun place. The phrase take place, meaning to happen, is not transparent. We think B1 level learners know that phrase. What about this one? The verb go is very early on in terms of when it's acquired. The colour red is also known right from the beginning, but you wouldn't necessarily at A1 level know the phrase go red, to blush. You might, if your own language uses a similar phrase. In other words, if there's a cognate relationship there. But we found in looking at the evidence all over the world that learners don't actually know that phrase, go red, until B2 level. Here's one more example, to fall short. And again, the adjective or adverb short is known at a very early stage. The verb fall is known in its concrete sense of falling over. But this phrase, to fail to achieve something, I hope it's not true, but just to give you an example, if this webinar falls short of your expectations, that's a context for you that it fails to achieve your expectations. We think that that is only known by C2 level learners. So this is one of the many aspects that Ron Martinez looked at and that we were able to incorporate in our final development of the vocabulary resource. And as I said, you can have a look at Ron's papers on this website. Dr. Martinez was at the University of Nottingham while he was working with us, but he's now moved to the University of San Francisco State University, and there's the address, sfsu.academia.edu. So if you've got time, have a look at his work.